What is going on, guys? It's Yoji. Welcome to the unexpected, hilariously casual non-tryhard podcast, episode 19. Why did I put that in behind a lamb? That doesn't make sense. With me is ProjectPT, as always. By always, I mean not for the last 2 months. How are you doing?
It's non-tryhard and casual. We are sticking with that name for a reason.
Yes. I mean, the concept's like always been perfectly, flawlessly executed. Random shit just happens. Podcast would also be a good name, I think.
Stuff and Things podcast.
Yeah, stuff and things. 2 people talking about stuff podcast. Sometimes 3, I guess. So yeah, we are here today to talk about. I have no idea. So how this all came to be. PT asked me at some point, "Hey, you want to do another casual podcast?" And I was like, "I think I can do like next weekend or something." And then this is it. That's all discussion that has been made beforehand, so we are prepared as always.
Always.
Always. So yeah, if Chad has anything you want us to talk about, PoE related or maybe not, but we're kind of like sticking to PoE today, I guess, because
for today
I've
we'll
not
stick to
really
the PoE.
done anything other than PoE gaming related, anyways.
How much have you played in like the last 2 weeks?
I think maybe 2 hours. Last 2 weeks. Last week I did not play at all. And the week before, I think I played a little bit, and I tried to start yesterday when the servers were down. I was like, rip. That was very unlucky timing. I kind of wanted to try something on my Scorching Ray character that actually died. The last time I played was when I recorded for the last video, but that was only for the video. I was not actually playing.
And you tried out softcore, but you couldn't really enjoy it because you want the hardcore death penalty. So then you went to the Soul Self-Found hardcore.
Yeah, I played Earthquake to 90 something, and I made a Righteous Fire cast when channeling Scorching Ray Firestorm character, Chieftain. That died while recording a video. It was horrible at first because the damage was not there at all until I got found a Rise of the Phoenix way later on my Earthquaker, and then decided to go back to the character and see if the damage was enough with it. And yeah, obviously with Righteous Fire and 2 spells getting the more multiplier, it's insane. The damage actually is pretty good. So yeah, I liked it. It was played very differently actually than most characters, because you get to aim the Scorching Ray and you also get to aim the Firestorms, which I think is kind of cool. So that character was more interesting than I expected, but it cleared super slow.
Scorch Ray was actually kind of a fun ability to use in PvP because it kind of felt like a little mini Shaper.
Oh, imagine Shaper could just turn as well. That would be cool.
Well, and it's also the debuff duration, though it's kind of potentially awkward in the PvE stuff. In PvP, it had enough of a duration and no T scaling, which is the PvP scaling, so that it dealt a lot of damage.
Yeah. It's interesting that it does a lot of damage in PvP, because in PvE it feels like it's... I mean, it does a lot of damage, but it just takes forever to kill stuff. It's like... It ramps up and then the damage is alright, but it feels like for all the, mechanical limitations the skill has, it doesn't do enough. Especially, early game.
Yeah, and oddly enough, that in PvP, Blight and Scorch Ray do insane damage.
That's super interesting.
Well, GGG, they put... scaling on PvP skills so that they have a damage penalty, but whenever they introduce new skills, they don't have the damage penalty because it's not a universal damage penalty, it is skill specific.
So they start off with no damage penalty, and if a skill becomes too ridiculous, they just put one on. Okay, that makes sense. So it basically just does its normal damage while everything else does less, and that's why it's good. Okay, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would it do damage?
Well, yeah, it's so Blight, even if you have 75% resists in level PvP, you will die in a fraction of a second to Blight.
Okay. And it slows you.
Yep.
That sounds fair. Nice.
So, one of those things that's missed.
Yeah.
And there's a Soul of Self-Found League. Is that going to interest you in the next patch?
Maybe. I mean, the thing, I kind of like playing Soul of Self-Found, and I think the league has most of the things I would look for in a Soul of Self-Found league. You can leave anytime, you can migrate all your stuff over to the normal one, which I think is very important. If they actually get to make everything work they put in the manifesto, I think that's how I would like a Soul of Self-Found league to be. Maybe give us universal gem vendors. If they do that, I will definitely consider it. If I don't have the mule gems if I play this, then I'll definitely consider it.
The fact that they designed it so that there's essentially a solo self-found server that you can then migrate upon request one way to the non-solo self-found server. I wasn't expecting them to put in that much utility.
Yep.
Because all of the other ways that were proposed other than that one had to force you entirely into playing solo self-found or not solo self-found.
Yeah, I think I didn't expect that either. It's like because that's like they have to get a system working because you can also migrate your whole masters and stuff if you want as well.
Well, there's already a system because when a league ends, it migrates your masters, your characters. So there is a fundamental system, but I have no idea how much extra, let's say, on the database it is.
Because that also sometimes fucks up. That system sometimes like screws up when there's migration to standard. Sometimes stuff gets like weirdly migrated, or some people end up with the wrong hideouts. That has happened. So maybe some fun stuff will happen when we migrate our first self-found characters over. I'm expecting some weird bugs.
MR Cubis said they announced on Reddit that you'll be able to buy all the gems now. I didn't see that.
In some form. Chris Wilson said, like, there was a post, and Chris Wilson said something like, they are considering this, or like, they will try to get it in some form. Was like the...
Yeah, but...
Maybe there will be, like, less...
Until they say that it's happening, and the system that it's happening, trade improvements soon, TM.
I mean, in some form means, like, maybe they're just, like, putting less gem restrictions on there, so maybe I don't know, a shadow still can't buy like all the red gems or whatever, but that's like it's not as strict and arbitrary as it is right now. For example, Inquisitors can't buy increased critical strikes because that makes sense. Like maybe they will rework the whole system anyway, and that's why it's not as bad. Like, because they are already reworking the leveling experience probably with the removal of the difficulty and Act 5 and everything happening.
It does make sense. I always thought the easiest way would be when you hit second difficulty, the gem vendor should just sell all of them. But at the same point in time, they need to make the vendoring tabs for gems, make 3 of them, 1 of each color, because it's a clusterfuck. Like, unless you memorize what all the gems look like without a search function, it's just like, okay, what does the flicker gem look like again?
Yeah, I have that whenever I look for like a really obscure gem that I haven't used in a while. I'm just stuck there like, what did knockback look like again? So I'm like, okay, I've not used that for a while. So that's when I have this. But normally it's like, I mean, you know what all the like conk effect and whatever look like if you played the game for a while. You're like, okay, this is like
those main ones, and it was a huge thing when I was playing PvP because there's tons of gems you don't use. Like in PvP, smoke mine is the fucking shit, and I'm like. What does smoke mine look like?
Oh yeah, for PvP, right? Yeah, you can use. There's also like this block gem that I didn't know for like I probably didn't know about like 1 year after they implemented it.
They reduced block chance.
Yeah, only when I first did my first Hall of the Grand Masters, someone in chat said, "There's a gem that you could use to beat these guys, these block characters."
Also, like Frostwall. These gems are. Well, I guess Frostwall's been used more recently.
It's basically what Netmod says, like, this doesn't look familiar, what is it? this is not faster attacks or melee physical, it could be the right gem.
Well, if there's one thing that would be interesting when they redo the leveling would be it's an opportunity to overhaul the supports. Like, the supports are really awkward in certain ways. Like, you can get a lot of leveling power on mine builds just because of the introduced minefield support, which is the most ridiculous fucking support gem they've ever done.
Yeah, I think it's super crazy.
I'm surprised that not more people realize how powerful mines are. People don't like playing them because of their quality of life.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't play it even if they could one-shot everything, because, I mean, they probably can if you make the right build, but I just don't like how it plays. I mean, in PvP, like, if you do, like, capture the flag, it's different, because that actually is strategic placement that actually makes sense to use mines, because you can use them reactively. But when clearing maps, it just makes no sense.
Well, even Steel Mage, when he did the Kinetic Blast Miner
Mhm.
with Fire Nova Mine, and like Fire Nova Mine is a great solo self-found build. It's a
Yeah,
great non-solo self-found build. The Helm Enchant for Fire Nova Mine is pretty fucking retarded.
which is the good one? It's like extra repeats, or what is it?
Yeah, it gives two or no, the I think three additional repeats on
That's
the
crazy.
Uber, and it's a more multiplier every stack. So lots of thing.
That's extra. That's a lot of extra damage. It's like a huge more multiplier, basically.
Yep, and then if you're choosing like the Elementalist, they're gonna shock. If you're choosing the Inquisitor doing crit, or Saboteur, huge area of effect. So you have a bit of options there. The only problem is mines are bursty, and if you're trying to do something like Shaper takes some endurance. But then again, you could probably just do Valregis Fire, scale fire
Yep.
damage, and one shot him that way.
Yep. I mean, that works on every boss in the game now, I think.
Are you a fire-based build in CI? Throw on Valregis Fire.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, maybe Phoenix and Azerians are not the greatest. I mean, Uber Azerian, because they're kind of immune to ignites.
A little bit.
Slightly immune to ignites. All right. So, what have you been playing? Except for you've been playing World of Warcraft, and like
Yes.
the last thing you've done before that, because I have no clue about that game. I never played it. Um,
Well,
where did you
I was
leave off in Cellphone? Because you were playing some Detonate Dead stuff, and some
yeah, I was just doing Detonate Dead,
PT.
and I had an Earthquake character for when I was going to do the lab farming, and then once they did the Xbox announcement, it was just more clear to me that they were trying to make a more casually accessible ARPG and
Mhm.
not going a lot of things that you pointed out. I think you had a video with
I only had the
the
joke
similarities
video.
between D3 and
Oh, the long one that I made long before the thing. Yeah,
yeah,
the long ramble.
a lot of parallels with that. Have you
Mm-hmm.
shifted your opinion on that one at all?
Mm. No, I still like. I just realized more and more, like the more I've been like, since it has been clear that the whole Xbox release has been planned for like basically since the changes started that I didn't enjoy as much, and since they basically the time period where they decided, hey, we're gonna work on the Xbox version is also the time period I mentioned in that video, where I was like, roughly during that time it started where the changes started happening that made the game less and less enjoyable for me, and
Mhm.
so this made it like perfectly clear for me that this probably had to do with each other, and that's just the direction they want to go, and it kind of like removed the doubt that this is not what they want to do. Because Chris Wills, like in some interviews, they always like backpedal a little bit and be like, yeah, but we kind of like don't want the game to be this fast, and we kind of don't want it to be this, and we're having the hardcore audience still in mind. But honestly, I don't think that's true anymore. I think that's just PR stuff to keep like the like long term players going for a little longer until they realize this is not going to happen.
Well, it's one of the things when I remember on the Line Eye podcast when we had Jonathan, he made the comment where, the game wasn't designed to get to that type of attack speed and movement speed
Mm-hmm.
and cast speed so that the animations are completely fucked up. But that's in it in itself. The game wasn't designed for that. And goals can shift, perspectives can change. There's nothing really wrong with that, but it just if you were in one perspective and shifted to the others, I have no doubt that this is going to be a massive financial success.
Yeah, same. I think it's. I mean, there's a potential failure. Obviously, it could just like totally like fail on Xbox, and then not much is gonna come of that. But I don't think it will. I think it will attract a lot of people who will like casually play PoE, buy some stash tabs. Maybe some will even migrate over to PC after a while because they kind of like find it on Xbox randomly, and then they're like, hey, there's like another version on PC. I also play on PC, and then migrate over. Might also happen.
Like I see in terms of potentially my future in PoE, just new league, one character. When that character dies, done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It, in its casual direction, it's fine. It's just not a game that I get anything putting hundreds of hours into it, and even doing community stuff. build help. It's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, it's kind of what I said. I think I also said it in that long video. I think that video like really wraps up my opinion pretty well. But yeah, I said that there as well. Where I was like, PoE in the future probably for me is like I'm gonna play like what did I play like this league? I played 1 week of softcore, like 2 to 3 weeks of hardcore, and then I kind of left the game. Even though I like the league a lot, but I was just like not interested because the meta is not changing all that much anymore. So I just like play 1 or 2 characters, check out what's new, and then I'll probably leave.
Shove your new uniques on the existing builds and be like, yep.
Yep. I actually considered like going permanent league instead. That might also be interesting.
I'm trying to think. The only problem with the permanent league is temp league mechanics are never in the permanent league.
Yeah, that's like the big problem. So you basically some you will never get. That's my main problem actually.
If they introduced the temporary league mechanics into the permanent leagues while they were active, I probably would just play permanent league hardcore, because then, holy shit, deaths. Dying with legacy gear, like that's a death penalty. And then you just play a character that way. I probably would do that.
Yeah, I'd probably play standard instead, because if I'm already in a permanent league, I don't really see a reason to not just like play standard. Maybe like delete all my stuff, do like play like self-found, and just like see where I can get, kind of like Anuhard style, just like play and see what happens, what drops, and make characters and see what comes up next. I definitely see some interest in that. I think I'm like mostly also for next league I'm considering trying softcore again. I got some tips how to play softcore properly, so it's not as annoying and boring. So I might try it again. I actually got a lot of people message me and be like, "This is not. If you play softcore like this, it's annoying. You should try it more like this." And okay, so not as glass cannony. Maybe actually like try hard a little bit. And
what was their general tips?
The general tips was like first, do not go like a hipster build, because softcore is not fun if you don't try to go clear speed, because that's like all that makes it. Like you have to put some challenge into how fast can I clear or how OP of a build can I make. Otherwise, it's not. Like, making a build work is not interesting. That's basically one of the main points that people, like, wrote to me. Another thing is that I should still try to make it somewhat tanky character, so I, like, kind of can progress faster to the higher levels and, like, push higher content better without losing experience. I don't know. I didn't really mind. I didn't really... Like, the thing is, maybe what annoyed me is, like, if I die, it doesn't really matter as much, but whenever I die, the game basically shows to me how little it matters, and that kind of, I think, annoyed me. So I think there's a point in that. That if I die less, it doesn't feel as softcore. So I basically pretend it's hardcore, but not really, and then see how that goes.
Yeah, and you could, like, Heji was doing the on death corrupts an item. I think there's some things that you can do to make it a little bit more entertaining.
Corrupted item, that sounds pretty cool, yeah. Like roll a dice, take a random item on your character and like corrupt it.
I think it would be fun. Before any item on your character is equipped, it must be valid.
Lifting, I think he played that because he was using the what's called the Malachi helmet, the new one. All your items must be corrupted, and he was leveling as that with that rule as well. That was also really, really fun. He actually got like some super nice +1 boots and stuff. He actually got like cool items out of this, which was really cool. But he also bricked like some leveling items.
Well, the Valorbs is one of the things where I really enjoyed their original introduction, but now where gear has gone, like the base gear has so much more stats than it used to, so that the bonus on the enchant for a lot of the pieces, like rings, for example, aren't as significant. And then with the introduction of the helmet enchant, the boot enchant, the glove enchant, this then makes it much less desirable to even bother corrupting gloves, boots, and helmets.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Especially boots doesn't really make sense to corrupt for the most part, because the boot enchants are just so good. Helmet are even better. I think gloves still make sense because you can get like the curse on hit stuff. Like actually trying to corrupt gloves for curses on hit or something is still really cool. Because the glove enchants are mostly just like nice to have.
No, glove enchants do. But then again, some of the glove enchants are pretty fucking powerful. I think it depends what build you're playing.
Yep.
Because the problem with the on hit is auto cursing isn't the hardest thing to do anymore, and it's not a 20 gem, and it doesn't even have quality. So most of the gem, most curses really have a huge benefit from quality.
Yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, like your build is basically done as it is without corrupted gear, you can always try to corrupt for a +1 curse amulet and a curse on hit on the gloves, and usually just get an extra curse, even if it's like ally weakness on hit, and you're like, I mean, that's still like extra resistance penalty if you're an ally build. That's still pretty good, unless you're an Inquisitor, then get your glove enchant, I guess.
But it is very difficult to get the +1 curse on the amulet and the specific curse on the gloves.
Yep. But that's like the cool fun min-maxing stuff that I actually like, and like end game. After this, I mean that's something you do after everything else is basically done, I guess.
Well, that's actually one of the things that I think more heavily biases uniques. Not only that uniques are higher item budgets, but it's easier to get a unique that you would then, let's say, unique amulets or unique gloves that you would corrupt for these things that you want, than just a rare. Because a well-rolled rare to get your resists are surprisingly hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so many advantages to using uniques, and then for rares, just throw on your fucking rings and your amulet for resists and call it a day.
Yeah, definitely. Like overall, I mean, gearing is overall with jewels. I feel like resistance strain has gone down a lot. Like getting like one all res stat on like some of the jewels gives you so many resistances.
That's a really underrated role, though, for some reason.
That's why I get my jewels pretty cheap. Because people see like 3 stats and then you have like all res on there. I mean, that's 30 res. That's a lot. To just randomly have on a jewel. I mean, yeah, jewel stat, you could have like, I don't know, crit multi or something on there. So yeah, you're giving up something. But then also that jewel would cost like 2 exiles extra compared to the all res one.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good thing in terms of flexibility. The only real downside is really you're just using rares for resists, and once you have the resists, everything else is uniques.
Yeah, it's definitely very unique heavy these days. It's pretty crazy. And I read on Reddit the other day as well, where people were complaining that like most of the old chase uniques are like worth like maybe a few exalts at most. But basically the new chase uniques are like the Headhunter and Skyforth tier. Those are like the two. Vaults would go up there as well again if it was actually used. Currently, I think it's even bugged as well. But yeah, it's just not used. Once it gets used, it will also be up there as well. Like usually,
Shavs and Combs are still okay value.
Yeah, Shavs. It's like it's. I think it's the same value it has been for a while now.
Yeah, 8 exalts or something. I guess it depends.
I'm actually a bit surprised that it hasn't gone up with like ES being more popular. Most of the ES items have gone up.
But well, I would. The reason with Energy Shield being so strong, CI having the node past it being the more Energy Shield is pretty ridiculous, and Shavs gives you damage. If you don't need damage, you know.
That's true. Yeah, I guess most people are just like, I'm just gonna get another 400 flat ES and be more tanky because I one-shot everything anyways. Yeah, that could be a thing, that damage isn't as needed. In general, like, stats are not as needed anymore. You can just, like, settle for a lot more suboptimal stuff these days and still do fine. Like, there was a time when bad PoE you had to get, on every item you had to really get the right amount of stats and a lot of good, like, all the good stats your build can need or can use. And now it's like, you can be like, I have this shit ring and this shit amulet, but it doesn't really matter. That's also why Eye of Chayula has become more and more popular. Before it was for crit builds using Eye of Chayula, people would like flame me if I did that. They'd legit be like, you're losing so much damage, why would you ever do this? That was before the Valyrian ring of Skyforth existed. And I was like, because I don't want to be stunned and die. And like, this is horrible. You lose like 35 crit multi and 25% crit chance and added physical. That's like horrible. And now Chayula costs like a shit ton. I mean, even before the new amulet was released, that was when Eye of Chayula was like 1 chaos for like perfectly rolled. Like with perfect implicit, you don't have to do anything. You just like buy this, put it on, leave it on character.
The main, I think, obviously the crit multi was nerfed on amulets. That was something. But I would say in general, it was probably the introduction of ascendancies gave either a huge amount of damage, a huge amount of defense, or a combination on any ascendancy. So then, rather than when you're playing a build, you're like, okay, do I want to go a bit faster but have low defense? Or do I want to go a bit slower but or have more defense and go a bit slower. Whereas the more competent builds, also the combination of the new base skills that are being designed, there's always some that's ridiculously powerful. Your Blade Flare, your Earthquake, your Ancestral War Chief.
Mm-hmm.
And this makes it so that you need even less damage. Yes, you can make Reeve do as much damage as Blade Flurry, or you can make Ground Slam do as much damage as Earthquake, but that's more damage you need to invest into your base character that you then couldn't invest into utility, movement speed, defense, and then this is why builds are going, CI. They can get the damage. They don't need to deal with the freeze stuff anymore. The stun immunity's not a huge problem. And it allows them to get the most ridiculous defenses possible using a skill that's just fairly overtuned like Blade Flurry. If you could get that defense, but you had shit clear speed, it wouldn't be problematic. There were very tanky builds before.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you can still make like a super tanky, Aegis block character, something like this that basically cannot really die. And like especially if you go Guardian, you can actually get a very high ES pool with cap block and crap ton of Guardian defenses. But you're not clearing fast because you can't invest into damage if you do that. And that always used to exist, but now you can actually get ensembles at least. I mean, I'm happy they nerfed Roomies, for example, because that was giving too much defense for press a button. And so yeah, right now it's like possible to get insane clear speed and insane defense. Because CI is just so good. Like, you can get 15k ES, get really great clear speed, and destroy everything. And yeah. Also, the whole, like, clearing at the speed of a movement skill thing is... I don't think that should be in the game.
Well, that was another one, I think, what was it, 2.2 or 2.3, they stated that there was going to be a change to the movement skills.
Mm-hmm.
The players like the movement skills, though.
Yeah. Chris Wilson even said that when Ziggy interviewed him when he was there, he said, like, he actually said the game would be better if they nerfed all the movement skills. But they won't do that because the community wouldn't like it. He said the game would be better if they did it, but they won't do it. And I was like, that's sad. So, yeah, at that point, it kind of started to become obvious that, yeah, maybe they're not really caring to make a good game. Maybe they're just wanting to make a popular game at this point, so...
It's spammy. I'm confused.
I just read who thought Aberthus was a good idea. Yeah, what the fuck? I mean, that item looks like ridiculous, but I didn't think it would, like, when I first saw it, my thought was, if this is actually powerful and usable in high tier maps, this is going to be broken. So I assumed it would not be that good.
Yeah, and then you can't tell the damage scale, and it says do this, and you're like, okay, how much? What is it scaling with exactly?
Yeah, it has to be have like ridiculous damage effectiveness, because if you put like added lightning and added cold on there, it just destroys stuff.
Yeah, I think the issue is the damage effectiveness, and even like General Sao, I remember he has the clip where he's like, "It's just a meme thing; it's gonna suck."
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. Like, I was looking at it, was like, "Hey, this looks like I could make funny memes with it, but it's not gonna make a proper endgame build." And like 1 week later on Reddit, there's this guy who has like this Val RF build where he just walks through the map on the hooves and Val RF's the boss, and I'm like, maybe this is actually good. And by good, I mean ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It's just like, goddamn walking simulators.
Yeah.
But it's not even the only build that has access to that. The Herald of Thunder, there's a lot of... honestly, Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice have been so powerful once they were introduced.
Yeah, the whole auto bomber thing, right?
So many times. Well, like, originally, even the flat bonus of Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder was greater than that Anger or Wrath or whatever gave you.
Oh yeah, because it was like, it's just a buff for you, but then they realized that nobody's really playing in parties, or like not many people anymore. So they had to nerf the Heralds, because they were basically like, in single player they were like basically better versions of auras that you could use with auras.
And to be fair, when there was Reflect, Herald of Ice was not survivable.
Yeah, that was actually pretty crazy, because when you get like a chain reaction, especially on a Reflect pack, or like a Reflect or Aura pack, it was not so good.
And one of the other interesting things that is a huge change, It happened when I was looking back in some of the older PoE videos for the videos that I did, fuck GGG. Um, when I was looking at Permanent League vanilla,
Hmm.
I was able to find a very well geared discharge character that looked surprisingly comparable, other than movement speed, just in terms of his damage.
Yep.
He ended up in having like 7.9k energy shield. But then when I checked, that was at a time where Vol's Devotion was not accessible in the temporary leagues. And that was kind of the thing. When if you checked Reddit back at the time, someone would post a build and then be like, this is standard permanent gear, fuck off.
Hmm.
Of course you can do everything. With divination cards and the Xana change, Vol's Devotion has been a problematic item for a long time.
Yeah, it has.
There's a reason why whenever someone tries to do the designer unique, they're huge sticklers on how charge interaction works. Because shit like Vol's Devotion.
Yeah, but now it's bugged, so I don't think it's usable at the moment.
Hey,
Yay! Problem solved. They're just gonna ignore that and move on.
just break it.
Yeah.
So-
Overall, I actually like that you can actually like chase or get those old league uniques if you want to a little bit better now. Like you can try to buy diff cards. You like Xanamods. I actually like Xanamod rotating. At first, I was like kind of like a little bit against it, but I like that what you put on your maps does change a little bit every league. I actually enjoy that. And also, it's like Nemesis rotates out. Like chancing headhunters is not a thing, and you kind of have to find something else to do with your chance orbs.
I don't know, I'm still not sold on that, but that's probably because since that was introduced, I was always doing Soul Self-Found, and it's not really worth putting them on the maps for me. I was just like, I would rather Chaos spam items.
Yep. I mean, I guess you could like if once you reach a super late game, you could maybe do Pirandas to maybe get some crazy items for your build.
Yeah,
could
but
be a
if you're at the point where you're wasting currency, do you need any of the items? And that's kind of the other thing with
Yeah.
the power creep. In a game where the stat disparity is much greater for players and monsters at the advantage of monsters, your gear is essentially the key to unlock higher content.
Mhm.
And as that changes, then it's no longer the case.
Mhm.
You can. It's more, are you choosing the skills that are overtuned in comparison to the other ones?
Yeah, it's fun to be powerful. It's kind of like an argument one could make. But I feel like if there's nothing to measure your power against, like nothing stronger, once your character starts getting stronger, but you already have done basically like tier 16s and whatnot, or like Shaper. I mean, yeah, you can kill Shaper faster, but once you reach like Val Righteous Fire, walk in and nuke him levels, and you're lacking something. Like we have outscaled a lot of the content basically. Once you don't have any new content to measure your character against, just seeing a higher number on your character sheet, I mean, if that's enough for you, that's cool. But I feel like the game could use a little bit more tuning into the, hey, here's something really like freaking challenging.
Well,
But I don't think that's the audience they're going for anymore, so I don't think that will happen. And I think we are like by a lot in the minority.
yeah, I agree. It's a question of there's two types of audience: those that cater a power fantasy, one where you get to play a god smashing things,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's your more Dark Souls where it's like get fucked.
Yeah, and Path of Exiles used
You
to
are
be.
shit.
Yeah, Path of Exiles used to be very much one of those, like Benji says, one of those you are underpowered, you're overcoming the odds, you're like making this character work even though like the game is really, really difficult and you like really need to like think a lot about like how to build your character. It used to be one of those types of games, and then it's like slowly shifted over into one of those, hey, look, I'm super powerful, everything dies type of games.
Well,
And
it's also kind of weird in the same way because the early game is much more difficult than the end game. When you first go against breaches and going into Cruel, you're like, what the fuck is this?
yeah,
Because you don't have the utility available to solve all the problems. You don't have the leech tools unless you've bought gear to twink yourself out, but like the day one stuff, as you get into maps you get to a point where you can comfortably farm all the currency that you need at no disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
And that no, like, you're not going to be at level 50 farming normal to take a disadvantage on experience to then progress. But in this, no, you can go wherever you want and then power up your character and then do boss killing if you want, or just stick with that, because in tier 11, tier 12, that's all you need for the 100 grind or the EXP grind if that's what you want. And then it quickly falls off, so most people are just kind of done already.
Mm-hmm.
They're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
There's a point that Sephiric makes in chat. He's like, tuning a game for a subset of the audience that plays like 10 plus hours a day will never happen, because the odds are, that we are like part of this less than 10% of the audience. But the thing is, Path of Exile used to be the game for that type of audience, and that's where my whole problem with the Xbox release and all that kind of stuff and the game being tuned towards that comes in. Path of Exile used to be the game basically for the people who are like, Diablo 3 is not the type of game for me. I came from a different background. I enjoy more hardcore games. And Path of Exile used to be the game that deliberately balanced for a hardcore crowd, for people who like the challenge, even though, because it was that niche game that was like, hey, we had this niche of people who like more hardcore games, and we know we are that like indie game that only people play who want a hardcore experience with this insane passive tree that no noob will ever understand fully. Like, at the beginning, no one actually understood it fully. And theory crafting is needed and all that kind of stuff. And they shifted away from that. And now there are people left there. And now we are the minority. But we used to be the people who when this game started, were like the people this game was made for.
Well, that's a funny comparison. And going back to your video, when I quit D3, what I would do is farm an act, which is a set of maps in a region, and you would just run it as quickly as you can, ignoring every loot but rare rings, amulets, and belts, I think.
Why is this on?
Loot valuable uniques. What?
My subscriber sound is still on. I don't know why.
Oh. Well, swing and a miss. So yeah, you would run through a few acts, a few specific zones, so a map. You would only loot the items that could roll the full trifectas. Rings, amulets, and I think belts were usable, because there was a really good unique belt. And you would do them over and over. No threat, no challenge in hardcore, as quickly as you can. Generate gold and just wait to loot that lottery ticket. You didn't need an upgrade. There was no content for you to do with your upgrades. You were just upgrading for the sake of upgrading, not upgrading for a purpose.
Yep.
And in Path of Exile, you can shape your map so you have, your 1 tier 11 you want to run, your 1 tier 12, one of every map, so that gives you your 5 maps. You run them over and over. You can already do them, competent builds. Like I fully sextanted something like 7 times, never rerolled a sextant. Sextants are just free loot. Everything is just set up so it's more loot. And if you're trying to go faster, you're just IDing the lottery ticket for the sake of IDing the lottery ticket, and there's nothing to do with that except get the lottery ticket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of like basically why a lot of people, I think, left E3, because there was like no point to the grind, where PoE always had, like, PoE was so difficult that it was actually something after that to get, like, after you reach the point of, okay, I've like played through the normal game and there was like mapping or whatever, where you could basically always get something harder, and like the highest tiers of maps were insanely difficult to reach, and also insanely difficult to actually beat. Like, even if you got to drop.
I just remember in hardcore when doing palace runs, you two wouldn't go in the boss room.
No.
Someone's like, okay, I'll do the boss, and you're like, okay, and then he's dead.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm bored of my character. Let's see how much damage I can do to palace boss or whatever, and then like, you instantly die. It's like,
there was the immortal Sapphiles, sorry, not the Sapphiles, the Aegis Aurora tank, but he still had such high damage that you had like a 20% chance of getting one shot by a few of his attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, what?
In a lot of like arguments I read in chat right now, it's a lot of people. I think it reads like a lot of people don't really remember like how it was back then, and that's kind of like the point. I think a lot of the Path of Exile players of like from now, like the majority probably started, I don't know, with the Ascendancy. I think that was like a lot of people started there, maybe a little bit
Maybe
before
2.1.
that. Maybe 2.1. 2.0 I think was not where most people started, but like after 2.1 I would say is probably where most people started. And yeah, I don't know. 2.0 was actually pretty slow, but the whole beta and everything messed it up. And there was the meta where everyone was playing Incinerate block tanks. That's the clear speed that we had then. That was everyone was complaining that Incinerate was completely overpowered and too strong because you could stack defenses while still doing damage.
Yeah, and that was when videos of people going like, "Oh my god, this was broken," was someone standing for a minute attacking a Beyond boss going like, "He can't kill me."
Yeah, that was people are like, "This is broken. Why you can still kill the boss and he cannot kill you? I mean, what the hell? This is broken." And now Beyond boss appears. He instantly explodes while you shield charge past him. I mean, there's definitely something happened in between there where a lot of power creep happened. You can't tell me that this game. You can't tell me I just got better at the game, so I can now clear a map in under 2 minutes when before I took 5 minutes to kill one Beyond boss. No,
Well,
I didn't get that much better.
The end for me, I was playing DD, doing Scriptorium, whatever, tier 13, and I can't honestly remember the modifications on the map. Probably had at least one damage mod because Al can go. Who you don't read the disabilities of maps anymore. You just read does it have that mod that makes it so that your build can't do it. Yep. Right? You have one or two that you watch out for. If it doesn't have that, go. And Be'meth spawned. It had it Beyond, and I'm detonate dead. I didn't see it because of the vomit that is the screen. Val DD, not my Val DD, and I'm like, oh dear God, and I didn't die, and what? I'm playing Desecrate, and so I was just like, yep, I'm done.
You did not die to Be'meth DD?
Yeah, I was CI.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I only played live builds for like the last few patches, so I still die sometimes.
But there was another one where someone had killed an entire bearer pack. It was posted on Reddit. He had like 16,000 energy shield, runs past, and then there's that stupid if mobs are so far off your screen it gets delayed, then he runs back, gets hit by the entire bearer pack and lives. And it's just like, that's the problem. You don't need to pay attention to
that was supposed to kill your character no matter what. That's like a whole bearer pack is supposed to kill your character because that thing actually has enough, like, that's so telegraphed that if that doesn't kill you, what will?
Oh, yeah. It was the entire bearer pack, and I'm pretty sure it was a shaped key. That was bad.
So, yeah. But yeah, overall, I mean, the whole thing, like, the game is too easy, what we've been discussing. I don't really feel like the game's overall too easy. There are a lot of parts that are still difficult. I feel more like the game doesn't not really reward more time investment that, like, more hardcore players have as much as it used to. And also I feel like hardcore becomes less of a balancing concern.
Yeah, if you challenge your gear, and this is why softcore probably makes more sense now, is push your gear so that you can do the rippy fights that, in hardcore it's just like, well, that mod on that map boss doesn't make you just no. Where in softcore you could be like, fuck it, this will be fun. Yep. And then other than that, if you're playing a shorter amount of hours, then you're not going to necessarily overgear it by such an absurd degree, and you're fine. It's only it doesn't seem to me, at least, a game where I'd be like, yeah, I play this for thousands of hours. No.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, overall I would say, if there was, let's put it that way, because you're playing like vanilla WoW and stuff, if there was a 1.3 private server, I would play it. Now I would probably play a lot of PoE again for a while, but then that's very unlikely to happen. But just like randomly, if that existed, I would probably be playing that.
Carv said I've had challenging content in the last 2 days. What were you playing, Carv?
I know what he played. I watched his stream. He played a CI melee challenge again.
Oh, he did it again?
Yeah. And I think he also did like some weird summoner party challenge where everybody in the party has to use minions and nothing but minion skills. And then they had like 6 people leveling with zombies and stuff.
Wouldn't I was just like, is SRS not allowed?
I think I don't know if it is allowed or not because I think they were not really using it. They were using animated weapons and zombies, which looked super funny.
And there's dumb things you can do to impose your own challenge, but I like it when the game's imposing the challenge to me. If I'm imposing the challenge, then it's not really the game.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of like my problem as well. Like I like self-imposed challenges, but it's not if it's like the only challenge. I might as well play a game that gives me challenge by itself, and those games exist. So yay.
But yeah,
the thing is,
I don't think anyone thinks it would change back though.
Yeah, and I don't. It doesn't make sense. Like as a company, for making money wise, the game is now bigger than ever. Like we are the minority. I said that. It doesn't make sense for them to change back. Like at all. It was this thing they used to be. They have the thing is like what I'm complaining about basically is they used to have this vision where they were like we're making this game for the hardcore players, and then they moved away from it without ever like telling us.
Yeah,
they never said, hey, we're kind of like changing direction. We're kind of going Diablo 3 now. They never said that. Because if they did, they kind of wouldn't. Don't think they would have the money if they ever said that to us. That's that way. And that's the point where I'm getting annoyed.
Like, hey, where's the race season this season? There's not going to be one. Wait, what?
When were you going to tell us? I mean, if you didn't ask, never. But now, I guess racing is. By the way, racing is not happening. We're only having this race weekend. And then probably next time it's like, yeah, racing doesn't work on consoles, so we're not going to do it. And this PvP thing that's not being supported in years, we're not doing that anymore either. They only tell us, they kind of like make decisions and then tell the population way, way later, but they always pretend to be like super like upfront with the community and like everyone's like, oh, GGG are so in touch with the community. But that's become more and more PR bullshit. And the Xbox reveal has been this. Like the so far has been like the maximum of PR bullshit that I'm willing to take from a company that I want to support. Stuff like there's been absolutely no investment been made towards the Xbox release that has not benefited the PC version. We hired new people, but we hired them especially for this Xbox thing. We did not take any people away from the PC stuff. So they're trying to tell me that those people don't earn money. They're working for free. What? I don't believe that.
What I liked when I was looking through some of the PvP stuff was there was the season 2, which was 2.0,
mm-hmm.
and there was even things like, oh yeah, we've got some of the things solved for 2.0, and give us some feedback, and then we'll get the season 3 going. No announcement made. Eventually, on one of these State of Exiles, they asked about PvP, and Chris just in a small part of a podcast, no post, anything was like, yeah, we don't know what we're doing with the future of PvP. Yep. Check the forums, look at the GG post. They just were like, oh yeah, we'll keep doing that. And it's like, you just letting things die.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely see the reasoning behind it. Like the thing I'm complaining about again is not that it doesn't make sense financially. PvP was like, they started off on the wrong foot. They were not willing to make the investment into it again. And then they kind of like put it on the back burner for like basically indefinitely. I'm not a problem with that. They could have said something. That would be nice. Kind of like, hey, PvP guys, like both of you, would be cool if you like, you can do your skirmishes in our game. We don't have a problem with that. You can fight each other. That's cool. But please, you two, can you go and like stop complaining because we're not doing anything for you anymore, okay?
Yeah,
be nice, play
PvP. Like, hey, no, we're not good. We tried. These were the problems. Or even like, this is what we would need to try again.
Mm-hmm.
Related to the PvP one, what annoyed me was they blamed the PvP or lack of interest on, let's say, MOBAs, they were League of Legends and stuff, because they said D2 had large PvP. But you had issues where a pre-made character could not join group queues because he was stuck to the hideout. The features were broken. And then they're like, yeah, the problem was that there's other genres. And I'm like, here's the thought. Maybe the problem was it didn't work. No, that's not a possibility in the discussion. Or, and I ended up talking to one of the people who was in like the alpha for PvP and setting that up originally, and he was like, the members who like interacted only would do like 5 minutes a week, so there wasn't much back and forth there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as I said, it definitely makes sense. It makes sense to make the game more casual, to appeal to a wider audience, to make more money. It makes sense to cut out the PvP in a game where the PvP obviously did not gain any foothold. It makes sense to cut the racing out because it was a lot of investment for what was still like a minority of people. It all makes complete sense. And I'm not saying they should change that when it doesn't make sense financially, but they could be like, they could give us a little bit of information about this further. I mean, yeah, but sometimes PR-wise, it might not be the best decision to tell people that racing is not going to happen again in the way that it is.
Well, it's
But
one of the interesting things that happens in a lot of games. You develop a game and you have a bunch of core mechanics, all right? And if you're looking at the base of Path of Exile, the bandit quests are very clear. Ensarn Arena, there was supposed to be, and Cutthroat was a huge thing earlier on. PvP was a fundamental to their vision of the game, and that has been very clear.
Yep.
But it wasn't the entirety of the focus. It had the PvE, the endgame, then the whole economy. And one of the huge things that I liked about Path of Exile is, though I've been playing Soul Self-Found, the economy they created with their crafting tools.
Yep.
So this was kind of your three aspects of the game. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything.
There's mainly racing, PvP.
Oh yeah, and the racing season. The racing season, I think,
PvP,
is
and
different
PvE.
enough. So from there, you have this dynamic game focused on multiple interests, and it gets a depth because of the interaction of these things. Now, with when you're making decisions purely for the sake of money, so you did a little bit of a scattershot, made a game that has this kind of complete sense to you, and then the big thing that ended up happening was the PvE, not in the racing, but just PvE for the sake of PvE. But so then they're like, okay, well that's the interest. Let's fix the bugs around that. Let's fix the balance around that. Let's add more content around that. So they're investing much higher resources into one aspect, and the other things fall behind, and then they go like, hey, we don't know why the other things are falling behind.
I mean, maybe that was already happening because they saw that aspect was like getting more traction, and they kind of like just went with what was working and abandoned the other things. Because like the PvE was always like this, felt like, to me at least, like the center of the whole thing. PvP, like even in the beginning, it kind of like Cutthroat was working pretty well, but like the actual PvP, once it was implemented, it never really took off. Like even the first PvP season, I actually watched, like tried to watch a little bit of that, or like keep track of what was happening, which was really difficult, by the way.
It needed a cleaner implementation.
Yeah, it kind of like, yeah, just as I said, it didn't ever really take off because of the implementation, and they didn't really want to reinvest again, which kind of makes sense.
It does. It's just annoying. As to the PvP community, it's annoying that they didn't give it a good introduction, and a bad introduction probably hurt more than it helped.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
It made it into a joke. It's like, hey, you guys, there's this huge feature you guys don't know about, and it's a joke. Where it's like, God fucking damn it.
Yeah. And that's why PvE basically became the main focus of the game, and then slowly shifted away from the more competitive things as well. Like the focus shifted away from racing because it was only like
even
a minority who participated.
Carve stated, racing was the thing back in the day. Kriparian, who we credited in the game, was a racer.
Yeah.
He has a lot of demis, and then he's someone who will make a funny statement where he's like, racing isn't fun because people know how to race. Like, it's not as discovered. So the act of competition, and then it's this thing where that's the start of the casualization, and then I would even be a casual person compared to the original audience,
Yeah,
which
definitely.
were the racers, because I don't race.
Yeah, that's kind of like the shift as well. Like I used to be the casual guy who plays these weird builds and knows like what stuff about the game, and now people are like, "You're this elite veteran player." What? I never tried to get good at this game. I just wanted to have a challenge while like digging around with stuff. And now I feel like I have to try really hard to not beat the game, which is which is not that's not me getting better at all. People always like pretend it's like, oh yeah. I mean, I know a lot about the game, but it's also because the game hasn't changed in forever. Like what I know about this game is still true. That's mostly like the stuff I learned is still true. The game used to change so much that you really had to learn to reevaluate and like actually do theory
Well,
craft.
that was
Theory
a
craft.
huge thing on patch note days. Patch note days were basically like empty slate, learn the passive tree ASAP,
Yep.
check the new skills, and more specifically the interactions of skills.
Yeah, interactions of skills with uniques. Look at all the uniques if something could work with it. With like some of the new passes or whatever.
Now it's just double dips.
Yeah, it's like, oh, does this double dip? No, that's probably only mediocre. Or are these the numbers on it totally broken? No, then it doesn't have enough AoE.
And you're not solving a puzzle anymore. You're just playing the speed that you choose.
Yep. And yeah, the game just appeals to an audience of people like if you look at especially now if you look also which like streamers are like the most watched streamers, those are usually the ones who play like the like really high clear speed stuff because that's what people like to see, what people like to play.
Yep, and that's a shift of the audience.
And that's the shift of the audience and that's I mean, as I said, it's good, it's a bigger audience, so it works. It just leaves some people out, and that's kind of like all I'm saying here. Because people like trying to paint it in chat again. Like a lot of people try to paint it like we're saying the game like must change and we're like super salty, or because we supported the game we want to have a say in the what is going on in the future of PoE. It's more like when you buy a supporter pack to support the game, you look at what you think the vision of the game is or what has been stated in the past, what the vision of the game is, and you look at it and you're like, that's something I want to support. I think this game is going in the right direction. But when behind the scenes it's actually not, that's when I get a bit annoyed.
Well, it's one of the funny things where I think people take the argument a bit out of context, when they throw around a term like just entitled or something like that. Nobody, like I've gotten my money's worth, I would say, in Path of Exile. I'm not upset of, cost versus returns. It is more a sake of, and with World of Warcraft, it's the same thing, and why I'm playing vanilla World of Warcraft. If a game is going through content expansions and continuously being changed over a period of time, you can't tell me that Path of Exile is the same in 2.5 with just quality of life improvements than it was in 1.0. Same thing with World of Warcraft is not the same in Legion as it was in vanilla. And though you say, someone who might say, oh, I'm just entitled for the game that I want, it was your guys bitching that made it more casual, and now I don't have a game. It's not a game that I bought that I can be like, oh, I'll take a break from it for a few years and go back to it. Path of Exile 1.0 does not exist.
Yeah, I think that's like a very unique problem of like the online gaming era of games, because back in the day, if I bought a game, I would always be able to play that game, right? And even if they put an add-on on, I could just not install it and play the old version if I don't like the add-on. And that doesn't work anymore right now, which is kind of like an interesting thing that I never really thought about as much. But yeah, you can't really go back because the games get patched, and if you don't like the patch, then you have to either find a new game or deal with it. That's basically how it works.
And then someone can't recreate it exactly. They have to, sure, Diablo 2, the shift of the audience, Diablo 3, a lot of people didn't like it. That caused a lot of the success of Path of Exile. But I remember actually like a Jim Quisition episode where he talked about the archival process of games, and that with the digital data, developers have a much stronger tool of just George Lucasing the shit out of their work, right?
Good old George Lucas.
And well, it's kind of a funny thing, and I almost thought of it in a way. I wish that quality of life patches and game patches would never be in the same patch. Because imagine you broke those up, and then you would get a quality of life patch, and then you would be like, okay, so these are just pure improvements to the game working. But then gameplay change patches were separate, so you could have a better metric of when you feel the shift and how you like it. Because you can get very stuck up on certain improvements so that it masks certain things that you dislike, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing is that would obviously split up the community, which is always a concern.
But that's what
Like
online games don't want to do. And kind of almost it's that's why they get the broader audience. They don't want to split the community. They don't want the homogenized fucking soup.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's basically their problem. And also
Like
that it requires extra resources for adding very little extra
that was
players.
even their thing about races. They said that when they do race seasons, their data suggests that kind of split the community and then caused people to stop. With some of their souls self-found, it was like potential issues with the auction house.
Yep.
So that is, online games don't want the separated audience. They just want the momentum and everything to be together.
Yep, which makes sense, like economically, like so much sense. And I think that's like the biggest shift basically behind the scenes. That's shifting away from this vision of creating a game for the hardcore audience to making money. That's basically that.
And I have no problem with a company making money for the sake of money. It's just then for mine, why do I have any consumer loyalty if they don't demonstrate it?
That's pretty much it, yeah. I mean, and whenever you bring up these arguments, it's what Silas is saying in chat as well. It's like they say that if I say I like PoE 1.3, they pretend that I prefer the game without all the quality of life improvements and all that kind of stuff. But that's obviously bullshit. Like people always
desync,
and then and then whenever you say that, people like this, for example, he likes to say that. But PoE right now is a better game than it ever used to be. And then of course, yeah, performance-wise and technically, it's a better game than it ever was because performance is improving. Of course, some people always have trouble, but overall, it's way better than it ever used to be. Quality of life wise, the game is a lot better than it ever used to be. You have a lot of awesome features that we never had before, and they add awesome stuff all the time, from like currency stash tabs to Spectre quality of life, which was actually added behind our backs. I don't know if you noticed that.
I was told about that.
Gazzy made a post. Yeah, I was like, why would they not announce this? But this is a different topic. I'm getting sidetracked. And this is not the podcast for sidetracking. Okay, it is, but... so, yeah, whenever they pretend that you don't want all of that, but that's great. My main issue is that the whole balancing is not what I think would be optimal. I would like... They can keep all the quality of life they want. They can even add, like, all the quality of life. They give me an ID, all the buttons in the inventory button thing. ID all items button. Give me like everything can be automized in my hideout. I don't even give a shit, but as long as killing the monsters is actually interesting and I actually have to interact with the monsters, like look at the mods on my maps again, that would be awesome. And I don't like spending time clicking. Like whenever you put an item in the Vorici bench, you always have to click again which option you want and then click craft again. They could fix that. That's not a problem. That's not clear speed meta. That's just annoying as shit. What is clear speed meta is that I can shield charge through a mat and everything is dead behind me. That's the problem.
One of the other things I was remembering, even when I quit D3, there was actually a combination of mods that you might have to watch out for, like Vortex, Arcane, something, or Prison. I think that might have been patched out. Mobs that could kill you.
I think Prison they patched out, definitely.
Yeah, they made it so prison couldn't spawn with arcane. I can't remember which patch that was.
That was so
But
fun whenever that happened. That was so fun. I remember I played with two of my best friends. One of them was my roommate in
Waller
Berlin.
Prison Arcane, rip.
Yeah, I was like bzzz, laser to death. Or what was it? Oh, we also had like a dare where sometimes we would dare each other to stand in the molten explosions.
Oh yeah.
Because sometimes you can't survive them. Like if you have like full life and you have like some certain buffs up, you can actually survive them. Like try it, and then poof, nope.
Well, and that was the thing though. Though you would, when I quit, it was you could grind through it. There was at least rares that could still kill you. You could just generally run away from them or kill them fast enough. But there is volatiles, but volatiles don't even interact with how you play. You do not interact with enemy mobs, and that's kind of, for me, it's like, and I've enjoyed. Compared, Gauntlet Dark Legacy is a game for people. It's just not a game that I would play for that long.
Yep, and that's basically what I do right now as well. Like I would probably play like 3 to 4 weeks every league, and then see what else is there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is surprisingly a lot. Like at first I was like, there are not many games out there that you can play as much as PoE. Like, but there's still a lot of games I haven't played that I can probably throw a lot of time into. Let's say each Path of Exile league every 3 months, there's probably enough games coming out to keep me occupied for like half of a league. So it's not really a problem. I just don't feel like that's what GGG would ideally want from their player base to leave like a month into the league.
Well,
then again,
if
Breach
they
has
get
been
player drop off, that's the reason why they went for a 4-month to 3-month development cycle, because they need to make new content for the sake of new content, and that's kind of what I feel though. Like Breach, I enjoyed because it performed well. Breach is still click a thing, spawn mobs.
It's also high risk, high reward, which I liked. I felt like they finally nailed the high risk, high reward thing that like Invasion or Beyond never had, where it was like high risk. Invasion was basically high risk, no reward.
But that was one of the weird things, and it was probably just because of the style of builds that I was playing, in which case it was the having Val Detonate Dead or Abyssal Cry. Because I didn't expect, like when I went into Cruel difficulty the first time, I was like, okay, these are kicking my ass a little bit.
Yep.
But the Chaos boss would spawn, and I didn't end up doing any of the breach stones. I couldn't be asked to. There was no loot that I wanted. When it spawned in a map, and this map would have 2 damage rolls and then 7 sextants, the Chaos Lord would die instantaneously because I'd just go Val DD and then everything's gone. And I'm just like, risk.
I think a lot of builds can actually cheese it pretty much, but as soon as you play not a top tier or like tier 2 skill, but like to go to tier 3 and tier 4 and whatever else is left.
DD Val DD, I wouldn't consider.
I mean Val DD it's still ignite prolive double dipping bullshit. So
it had elemental focus on it. I didn't ignite. They instantly died.
I mean, I guess Val DD is just really good for cheesing breaches then.
Yeah, because the amount of mobs, it just creates corpses, then kills them, and so the boss spawns with like 17 mobs around it and just dies.
Okay, yeah. Maybe that's just like a special case where this is tier 1 for clearing an entire breach in one button press, but for normal clear, it's just there. Yeah, that's pretty cool then. And I think it's cool when like a normally not used skill can solve a league mechanic in an interesting or funny way that looks awesome on the screen.
Well, I find it still has a similar problem to Beyond, where you can deal with Beyond very efficiently, and when you do, it's giving you a ton of loot without really much risk. But if you don't, and it's this weird balance where if you get overwhelmed, the content is not doable. But if you have enough DPS or the skill mechanic that the mobs are dying before they spawn, it is just whack-a-mole. There isn't really a line between there that's well defined.
Yep. Yeah, it's like, as I said, like the first 2 tiers of skills, which is like all the double dipping stuff and stuff with good numbers and mechanics. And then there's a huge gap before like all the other stuff. Like I played Molten Strike, Lightning Strike, which I still would think is like alright, but it's definitely more like tier 3 in my book. And I couldn't do breaches in Cruel without dying. Like I would die to absolutely every single breach because I would get overwhelmed and die.
Molten Strike and is really mechanically shit for breaches.
Yeah, and Lightning Strike also doesn't do enough before you get like full pierce and stuff. And you don't start the game with the 40 pierce, like 20 quality Lightning Strike. So even with the pierce gem, it's just not enough clear. Yeah. But if you play, I don't know, Flame Blast, it's probably the easiest thing ever to clear breaches in one Flame Blast, because there happen to be a circle, and your Flame Blast happens to be a circle, and that probably works really, really well. So yeah.
Oh, and also you have to realize, though, they took out a bunch of the breach modifications that did make them rippy when we were doing Cruel. You know, they patched out, I think Soul Eater could still bond, but like the vulnerability one caused a bunch of bugs. I didn't find Breach myself rippier than Perandus, though.
Yeah, because Perandus, a lot of the rippiness in Perandus came from the performance, for me at least.
True.
Because it was always stuttery when like a lot of Perandus mobs happened. Whenever some of the bosses had like, what's it called? There's one that spawned like siege ballistas, I think. That one was very, very rippy. The archer boss.
Yeah, but they were too rare. That was kind of the thing too.
Yeah.
Like one. And here's the thing: when we say something's too rare, we're the fuckheads that play way too much. Like, these are things that straight up people will not experience.
Yep.
Or they'll die to it and never see it again.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I actually died to one of those. To the archer girl. She just like popped up, lightning arrow, dead. Like ice shot? I think she ice shot. I don't think she lightning out. I think she just ice shots me. It does more than Piety ice shot, like in Merciless. Dead. And I was like, and then I never saw her again. But that was cool.
I remember in Perandus, that's when there was the bug where Blast Rain wasn't checking evasion, I think. And so the Blast Rain Perandus guy was pretty fucking rippy. If you were an evasion build, which was...
You now have no mitigation. Enjoy Blast Rain.
Yeah, you're basically a really shitty CI build.
Interesting. I didn't even know that, but I didn't play Evasion. I think I played I think I actually played ES in that.
Or sorry, not Evasion, Perandus. Sorry, Blast Rain was in Perandus. I might have said Evasion incorrectly.
No, I mean I didn't think I played Evasion builds during the whole league.
Oh, Evasion, not Invasion. Fucking hearing's hard.
Evasion. Maybe I also talk weird. People keep telling me that.
Fucking accents.
Yeah. So, do you think like Breach will stick around? Do you think they will keep it?
I always would like them to keep a mechanic, but with me, just not. I'd be surprised if I care enough.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if they don't keep it, because it apparently is the most successful league with the least player drop-off ever. Like what I've been hearing, and it also is actually noticeable. Like you can still like trade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hardcore not so much, but softcore, yeah.
It is, though. The one thing you have to pay attention to with the timing is this is during the disappointment of the D3 announcement being the Witch Doctor.
Oh, that's true.
So keep in mind there will be a bit of an overlap from a max Exodus. How much success is Breach versus the failure of D3?
That could be a thing. Yeah, maybe more ARPGs are dying in the future, so we can get more players or something.
Yeah, and less competition makes it easier to get away with those things, but I would probably pin it on just the performance. Though people still have issues, this is the first league that I haven't died to a performance-related issue.
Yep.
So, but then again, I only died once, and so I said, fuck it.
I died a lot to Reflect in softcore.
Do you think they'll remove Reflect soon?
I mean, I off-screen myself to Reflect like once per breach or something. Like whenever Ellie Reflect pops up and my Wing is not up, and then I die. That's basically how my build worked. It was like Lightning Strike, hedging crit stuff.
If DD wasn't Reflect proof, I probably would have died a few times to that, because you're fighting at the edge of a breach, and then all of a sudden Reflect mob spawns, boom.
Yep.
Just you're like, what? All right. Guess that's a thing.
Yeah, that's Inquisitor Lightning Strike with the Hedgies, just like full conversion with Twisted Lightning. It's like hit the ground like 3 times the multi strike. Oh, a Reflect Mob walked into it. I die because I had like I don't know, but I had 5k life or so. It was a very soft core build. My only defense was a little bit of armor and cap resists.
It works.
It did work, softcore work.
And you get a Hedgies, you get a lot of power.
Yeah, it's just like 2Ks in softcore. That was pretty cool.
Because of how leech works, you just have to be able to. It's like, okay, if I don't get one shot, I'll leech to full. So yeah, that's problem solved.
Mm-hmm. Right. But yeah, as I said, I'd be surprised if they don't keep Breach in some way because of how popular it is. Even if it doesn't, it isn't the reason. GGG likes to like see the reasons where they think they've been saying that Breach is very popular. So I think just in case it is because of the league, they probably keep it around.
Well, in terms of the map roll system, which I currently hate, because map rolls you have Beyond, and then you have either do nothing, you take more damage, enemies do more damage. Like that. That's kind of if
You have like
same,
Bloodlines, I guess.
yeah. Well, Bloodlines I would say is a do nothing.
It's like gain more experience, I guess. I mean, they're barrows and stuff, but yeah, it's mostly do nothing, I guess.
So what I would have been happy with in the map roll modifications is adding map rolls like take all the tempests, put all the tempests in map rolls so they can roll on the maps as prefixes or suffix. Beyond not Beyond. Breach would make sense to have a roll prefix or suffix that's like this map spawns with 3 breach portals randomly.
The thing is, if they could let us do that, then Breach is always the best thing, unless they remove Breach
think
mobs
about
from...
how rare it is.
It has to be rare,
sea witches. Right, and having rare rolls that are desirable then makes mapping more interesting because it's like, oh, this did appear with, some. Let's say your build really doesn't want to do no regen or no leech, and then it came with that mod. Then you're like, oh, that's a good mod. And that's the thing. They need to make maps something more than Alk. Close your eyes and go.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, okay, if they make it like rare enough, it's good because Breach mobs drop maps, which is pretty crazy, and it will.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like a huge upside. Like, if they ever would make that as a Zana mod, that instantly becomes the thing to roll. Like, unless they make it like 15 chaos or whatever, then you maybe have to think about it.
But on that, one of the design's interests is, as Chris talked about, is a whole bunch of rare things coming together to make an insanely rare thing. Now, think about a situation where we've put most of the league mechanics in the maps, because then, that's a thing. At endgame, you need to learn these things, which is fine. Don't stress it at the early game. What would definitely do something interesting is a bunch of the tempests, if the tempests were prefixes and suffixes, being able to roll multiple tempests on a map and then getting breach, activating a breach, and tempests are part auras.
Can you even get multiple tempests? Like, does the engine even allow it? Because I think it's just like prefix suffix, right?
It was when they did it that way.
Yeah.
But,
that would be pretty crazy.
Shame. They could do interesting things like that. Would love to see more shit with Torment. But Torment was one of those mechanics that was very, very interesting that never... Builds have so much power that you either kill the Torment before you see it, or
that does happen.
Something does get tormented and it didn't fucking matter anyways.
I mean, there's still some situations where it works. Like if a strong essence mob gets the tormented spirit, and I think it's a great mechanic that they can go into the essence mob before you open them.
Yes, that is. Well, one of the things that I did enjoy about 2.5 was the essence mobs more frequently have like 2, 3, 4 properties and spawn much rarer.
And they also have higher essences.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I think the essence currently works much better because they're far more interesting. It's just a shame of the build power.
Yep. But yeah, I think essence right now actually feels better than essence in Essence League, because when you find an essence, it's more rewarding. The fight is usually on average more difficult.
You're excited to see it.
And you're excited to see it because it's not like all the time. And yeah, it just overall works a bit better. And you're also kind of like not planning for it as much. Like I saw a Val RF guy on Reddit, I think it was today, who died. He Val RF the Essence mob, but it was corrupted Essence, and he forgot that, or he didn't know that you can't leech from them. And he Val RF'd him and it died in outdoor. Just like that. That was like one of the best deaths ever.
Yeah, and that's an example of a good death. But
Kind of. He made the complaint that it doesn't say anywhere on the mob that you can't leech from it, and there's no way to find it out except die or try.
That is true.
Or like try to leech from it and not see it not work.
I guess that is true. That misinformation is just kind of well, okay. In the same way, like you can sometimes get triple ghosted mobs that kick people's ass, but the amount of time I play and the amount of time that I see those things is maybe one every 2 to 3 leagues.
I mean, whenever I find this, like, what's it called, the Ashes of the Damned or whatever it's called, the tormented spirit containing unique strongbox. Whenever I find that one, I like usually try to like pull lots of rares to it and like see what I can make, or like one strong rare, and just like to see if I can create something rippy. But that happens like maybe like once a league.
Well, I don't just like when complaining about not knowing that thing and dying from it. It's a hidden mechanic, but that's kind of how all the mechanics are. The game doesn't tell you about corrupted blood interacting with the damage modifications.
Yeah.
And yet that's not considered an unfair death because it's just common knowledge now. Detonate Dead has been there for a long time. It's common knowledge. You can kill the totems. You could say that's just bullshit that you wouldn't expect at the boss killing. The problem with some of the more bullshit deaths currently is not that they're new. It's because you're dying so infrequently, because the game doesn't kill you, because the game just dies for you. When you do run into spike damage, it's such a large variety between the two. Because think about it the other way. If he would have known that, he wouldn't have died. And too much of the game is just don't do those things.
That's true. I just had an idea. Imagine a ghost could go into a breach and ghost the whole breach. That would be fucking awesome.
Oh, good. Activate the breach hand.
Basically, yeah, if that's a hand, a ghost can just like fly into the hand, open the breach, and every mob the breach spawns is ghosted by that ghost, and every rare it spawns is possessed by that.
Martyr.
Yeah, and then you get like Martyr, and like, dead. Nice. Or what's the one called the cannibal that like heals the mobs? They would like heal off of each other like all the time.
That one wouldn't be a problem because you can one shot most of the things.
Now, if you get a soul eater, you have a problem.
Yeah, if you have low DPS.
Imagine if you're also playing SRS. But that would be insane reward because now everything drops like insane quantity.
What's the bleed one? There's one that.
Yeah, they just get bleed on hit, I think.
Yeah, there would be some disgusting bleeds that happen in Tull.
Yeah, if you get like a boss as well, like all the Tull walk up to you, be like, bah, bleed. I mean, yeah. But then bleed flasks are up all the time anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, true. The thing with the rare interactions, things need to interact a little bit more. Torments are just not quite sticky enough. Tempests don't appear enough in prophecies to really be vastly interesting. And if those rare mechanics interacted more, the game might have the more difficulty that players want, or at least those players. But at the same point in time, think of the current spike damage applied with that. It would not work because of the current discrepancies.
That's true. But hey, would be cool.
A fun thought. Anything else?
I don't really know. Not that much.
I mean, chat.
I've not really
Is
played
there anything
chat.
Else you want us to touch?
Give me some topics, you shitters.
We can. What was it? Quad ghosted map. There's the ghosted chest thing, which is one of the things that I actually like, but chests are so fucking rare that there's not even a point of them existing.
Ghosted chest? What?
The chest that you open that spawns 3 rare mobs and like 7 ghosts.
Oh yeah, the Ashes of the Condemned or Ashes of the Damned, something like this.
Yeah,
Cool.
so there's that, which is interesting.
Grim
And
Dawn. They want us to talk about Grim Dawn and favorite porn categories. Okay, we can talk about all that. Okay,
Alright.
we do this like super quick. We just answer the stuff.
Alright, Grim Dawn needs more endgame and then it would interest me.
I've never played it. I might buy it at some point. What games are
Okay.
looking forward to?
Shit, I don't actually know.
Okay, I'll answer quick. Mass Effect Andromeda. I'm looking forward to that. I'm a huge nerdy fan of the Mass Effect universe, and I'm looking forward to For Honor, which comes out in 15 days, and it's a PvP game that I'm actually interested in.
Everyone's been talking about For Honor. Give me a TLDR.
It's like Dark Souls PvP, the game, but a little bit different. But it's like very slow-paced sword play PvP.
Oh, where the
With samurais
people were
and
like
stuff.
one-on-one dueling. Okay,
Yes.
I saw that. It looked a bit tacky.
It looks really good now. There was a beta this weekend. It's still going, I think, and it looked really good from what I saw on streams. I didn't try to get into the beta because I was so busy this weekend.
All right, potentially. All right, favorite porn category.
Anything that's not 2D. I don't like hentai. I'm not into 2D. Okay,
Anything that's not 2D. So
I'm not picky.
Just hardcore gay orgies.
Yeah, that's
not
okay
2D.
as long as it's not 2D.
Good.
And yours?
I'm gonna go with the hardcore gay orgies.
Okay. What's
Why
this?
is GG not implementing resistance scaling with life-based builds to scale beyond 75% resists? I think I missed some questions.
I'll just go with the next one. What's the status on ProjectPT not playing PoE anymore? I think he's playing
Fuck
WoW.
GGG. Hashtag fuck GGG.
Okay. How about
I'm
next?
playing vanilla WoW, streaming it on YouTube.
Okay, that's not a question. Why has GG not? Ah, yeah, it's now the resistance questions. Why has GGG not implemented a resistance scaling with life-based builds to scale beyond 75% resist? Is this a bad mechanic?
Well, in terms of the problem, life-based builds are at a disadvantage because energy shield builds actually have the better position for max resistances as well as the flask nodes and enfeeble, so that they can absorb much like margins of damage of 3 times elemental than life-based build can. It should be the other way around, but GGG's fucking retarded. Simple as that. There is no reason for it not to be the other way around, but GGG's fucking retarded.
I think ES should be nerfed to the point where life is right now, so I'm against that entirely. Because I played life-based builds, and I'm overall quite happy with where the power level of that is.
Well, I can agree. I think life-based builds should be nerfed a little bit, and energy shield should be nerfed into the ground, because my problem is people aren't dying, and I play life-based builds, and it's still too easy. But in the current state, as a value, it makes no sense for energy shield to then, on top of its current advantages, also have more elemental absorption than life does.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
Yeah, I think we're really bad at answering stuff quickly.
Fucking...
How could you make a slower PoE more interesting? To those people who like faster PoE, probably not at all.
If you wanted to do it, what I would suggest you make is 2 types of forms of endgame. So you have either like boss killing or slow mapping content that rewards experience at a much higher degree. And for the rapid killing, you have your MF and your loot stuff. This means that the difficult content, which is essentially impossible, it needs to be impossible by design to race through. You need high gear and cost a lot of currency to make it quite rare. This means the racing players generate the items for, and they get the loot pinatas, they get the reward of currency, all that fun stuff to give to the people who want to prove that they can get to the highest levels at the higher experience, and they then fuel the need of grinding things because they're going to die.
I think that was a no. Apparently, Hack says For Honor is a shit game. You should not play it. Okay. Carve asks, how much will you both play Path of Diablo on Friday and after that? I think there's like a new patch thing coming.
Probably not. I'm busy in vanilla WoW trying to get sulfurous.
I don't know actually. I might look into it a bit if I have time, which is very difficult. As I said at the beginning, time is currently like the most valuable currency to me. What do you think PoE will end story-wise in Act 5? It's not predictable because PoE story does not make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It's fucking ideas out of fucking hat. Whenever people ask GGG about their story, they literally say, when they feel like it, they do something.
Yep.
So,
It
magical fucking fairies.
It's no. Opinion on Lost Ark and Lineage Eternal. Do you know any of these games?
Lost Ark is, I think, like, no.
Okay. I had Lineage before, but I've never really looked at it at all. What do you think about Chaos Damage and Poison builds? They are very good. They kill content really, really well.
GGG was like, hey, fire double dipping's a problem, and we said we would address it, so let's make fire double dipping that stacks and scales off more damage sources.
Yes. Physical and
genius.
chaos. And cannot be reflected because fire damage is too bad.
Fucking genius.
Lost Ark are apparently in closed beta? Is that what it refers to? I don't
care about games in closed beta, though. Like, I'm just tired of games being beta for so long. It's like, you know what? How about, here's a thought, guys. Enjoy a game that's proved and, out, not this could be something.
Yeah, that's kind of like, I moved away from like most of the early access stuff, and unless like someone who I really trust tells me, hey, this game is really good, and it's in early access, and here you have it for free. That's like that's the main things I look for, because I don't like buy into early access anymore. There's enough released games out there that I can play.
Yeah.
Do you think Xbox release might cause GGG to introduce more cinematics? I mean, are there any cinematics right now?
There's the Xbox One that they did, which... There's a couple cinematics I remember with the Russian servers that were done by those. Cinematics are definitely a useful tool for marketing, but I think Path of Exiles graphics are too misleading. Mm-hmm. You do have to watch for creating an expectation. Then if a person is immediately has a false expectation, tries the game, he would have liked it if he tried it for a different way, but he was expecting something more cinematic, and he got Path of Exiles Whirlwind, where you just stand in T-stance and just fucking punch people.
Yeah.
So I think cinematics would either look terrible compared to what people are expecting of video game cinematics now, or create an illusion of expectation and then cause players to just drop immediately after their interest.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about it like that. But I would like more cinematics, but I don't really know if it's like an investment worth making. After what you said, like PR wise, I mean, if there were like cinematics in the game, I think people like when you start the game, instead of just having no intro at all, maybe having like a little bit of an introduction.
If you start the game and you get that really shitty cinematic where that polygon kicked the guy off the boat, I would have quit playing. It's so shit. It was like, oh my god.
Oh man, yeah, from the trailer. I mean, that one was horrible. It was like this, like the pizza-footed guy kicking this blob from the thing blob.
And I'm sorry, but the Reddit praised that cinematic.
The trailer, like the editing was really good, but like some of the scenes, especially that one and like one other, where like the graphics in there were really, really weirdly animated. But like the editing was really good.
No, the editing was fine, but there was some graphics problems.
Mm-hmm. I think it's mostly because they used a lot of like the early game and older stuff that has been in the game for a while in that cinematic, which is not good. Usually they use like the newest stuff, because if they make a new League trailer, they use the new content from the new League and the new stuff and the new bosses. They are all polished and new. And if you do like Twilight Strand has been made new, but as soon as you go to like, I don't know, what's the next zone called? Coast? Like once you go to the coast, it looks ugly and shit again. So
maybe the marketing campaign was everyone checks shit on their phone anyways, the resolution won't matter.
That could be true. What do you think about Kangen TV?
What? Oh.
Kangen TV. What do you think about Kangen TV is the next question.
I don't know. It was neat that he was playing solo self-found stuff. He was having fun with it, but I generally play too much to watch so much of other streamers, so don't really know.
Yeah. Like all the like clips and stuff I saw from it were hilarious. He seems like super entertaining guy. I think it was really fun.
Yeah.
Like his rips and stuff. He was always like, "I'm so bad at this game," and then he ran off. And that was always the reaction. I love that. That's also the right reaction if you play hardcore. I also like that he's came into the game starting playing Self-Found and hardcore like right from the get-go, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he dies and he's like, fuck it, go again. And it's good. I think it helps that he's playing it blind, too.
Yeah. I like the next question. Do you think lab farming is fair?
What do you mean by fair?
Yeah, I don't really know. But in general, fair. I mean, I think it's maybe, like, it's really strong, but I'm surprised at how little people do it. But that's probably because a lot of people don't like the labyrinth.
Yeah, the labyrinth. Fucking hate this shit. What do you think? You used to like it.
Yeah, I used to like it, and then I kind of hated it for a while, and now I'm like sort of okay with it.
You've accepted it.
Yeah, I think I think I've just given up.
5 stages of grief.
Yep, I'm still like in the third.
I think if they didn't put the most retarded power level of shit in that thing, it would have died immediately.
Oh yeah, if it was just like, hey, look, you can farm this, like you can farm at 0 or whatever, and you could just buy everything, then nobody
Like,
would farm it.
you have to think of what it gives you. It gives you your 7th link, because you can really think of your Helm enchant as your 7th link.
Yep.
It can give you,
ascendancy points.
Insane boot enchants. It gives you the ascendancy enchants. It gives you a lot of currency even if you don't get those, because you can get a decent amount of maps. It fucked up all the quality gems. It gives you eye level 84 stuff. So they think of how profitable they had to make it so people do it. And if it just gave the ascendancy, people would do it once, bitch about it, and it would be as populated as PvP. Yeah. They knew it sucked, so they had to make it so rewarding that people would do it because they knew it would fucking suck. And then they're like, oh yeah, we have percentage-based traps so that you actually have to care about it. Yeah, that's what people do. You just fucking run through it as fast as you possibly can, spamming leap or flame dash and not even paying attention.
Yeah. That reminds me, there was some sort of post about the New Zealand GDC conference thing where one of the GGG people apparently gives a talk about designing the labyrinth. Is that like an exercise of failures in game design, or? I was like, I didn't look at the post at all, but what was that? It was like, hey, we made this thing and 50% of our player base hate it, but they've not quit the game yet.
One of the things that was great, someone posted, it was an old interview with Chris when it was in beta, and they were talking about like level 100. And Chris was like, yeah, people should ideally never hit level 100, and players should, stay in their permanent league and work years to get level 100. And I'm like, yo, Chris.
That's how it goes. Okay. I think I got 3 more questions, and then we wrap it up. Do you think GGG will ever bring the credits back?
They said that adding in credits made people feel that the game was done, so that they would stop. They had a huge drop-off, so it's misleading. What they do they have a credits button that you can click?
Probably. Yeah.
I think they should do it like other games do, where you unlock after a certain thing, you unlock something, and you can go into like your trophy room or whatever. And so it should just be a credits button that you unlock.
PoE introduces create your own league. What mods and ideas would you implement?
Well, when you say create your own league, are you talking how do we mishmash what we currently have had in the
Sounds like
game?
that, because like what mods and ideas would you implement?
All items, item drop rate nerfed into the fucking ground. All items drop as white items, no other rarity, and only then currency drops. So you have to create all your items. So any unique has to be gotten through chance orbs. Any rare has to be gotten through using an alchemy orb, and it's an entirely crafting.
Would you up currency drop rate at all?
Oh yeah. You would have to. So essentially, instead of getting 10 rares, you would find, let's say, 5 alchemy orbs, because obviously you can choose what you want to alch. So insane increase of currency. Like getting a base needs to be fucking rare. Like getting a Val Regalia that's 84 would be the holy fucking grail, and that's what I would do. So be entirely craft-based league.
That's cool. I mean, that idea has been around for a while, but they were always like, we can't do this. People would have weird expectations.
Oh yeah, they
People
can't.
already have weird expectations. Do it. I don't really know what I would do. I'm always like at loss, but probably like just like all items drop as unique. Let's go. That would be fun for 2 days, and then everyone would quit. And good luck fixing your resistances with that.
Well, that's the point.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, you can't make rare items. No Alg Orbs, you can't get rare items at all. No Val Orbs, you can't corrupt them, but they can't go rare.
Everything has to be gained by corrupted orbs.
Or if they can go rare, yeah, would have to corrupt all your gear. Like you would have to corrupt. I corrupted so many beasts for sure, but I have not gotten a GGG super OP Val Regalia yet.
Where you get one, it's like, yeah, my 2-link.
Also, good luck making a loot filter that works.
Your loot filter's fucked.
Okay, our last one. What do you think about needing ascendancies? They are the biggest power creep problem to this Zium.
I would say that the biggest power creep problem is probably the craft benches. It is a bigger power creep than the ascendancies. But I don't know. I hated ascendancies. I was vocal about that. My opinion didn't change, and my expectations came true.
That's kind of. I think ascendancies, like, if you look at how much power ascendancies added, and that the game has not, like, the all the content that existed before ascendancy and up to ascendancy did not get a single buff.
Well, when ascendancies first came out, the Atlas wasn't out, right?
Yep.
Because Atlas was 2.4. And so, but the Uber shit. So there was more. I think the problem comes down to the highest echelon was Uber Zeri when Ascendancies came out, and then Shapers understandably considered about the same tier. So all that they've done is not improve the highest difficulty, but fleshed out some of the difficulty, keyword some, between the old top tier content and Uber Zeri with the introduction of Ascendancies. However, with the introduction of Ascendancies was the time where people started to have full access to just straight up casual farming Uber Zeri if you had, Chaos Firestorm.
Yeah, Chaos Firestorm, and what was the other one? Bladefall Mines?
Bladefall Mines at the time.
Yeah, that was definitely true. Okay, I think that's basically the podcast. I mean,
yeah!
I think the questions thing is cool. If we ever do this podcast again, which is not decided, and if it will be about PoE or whatever, but then we should do the question thing again. I like that.
All right, I can agree with on this. This is an acceptable term.
Okay, good. Yeah. Anything else? What did we used to say at the end of this podcast thing? Something like,
nobody cares about your opinions. It's the internet. Fuck off.
That works.